Hey, Alina, how are you today?
I'm doing really good.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here and saying yes to being a guest on the show. Before we start our discussion, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, you've already kind of given a little professional bio of me. And I live in the Pacific Northwest in Washington State. It was actually one of my manifestations that came really quickly. I thought I might retire here someday. Turns out that retirement actually came, decades early. So that's pretty cool. And I love being in nature, which is why we moved here. Live here with my husband and my dog, Pixel. And yeah. Let's see. What do I do? What do I do for fun? I have a board game habit. And I love traveling. I love just being with people. I'm also a student of the Tao. So, yeah.
Cool. I love that. Well, every episode of this season in particular, I want to highlight a different category regarding manifestation. So I wanted to have you on here because you've been on here before. You were here on season 4, episode 4 in that healing series and talking about hypnosis and core transformation. So that was really helpful for the audience to learn more about that. But this time, as we talk about core transformation and manifestation, I'm really excited to hear your expertise on that. So just going back to this series in particular, since I am a life coach and I help my clients build their dream life that aligns with their values, when I talk about manifestation with my clients, some clients totally get it. They know what I'm talking about. We're speaking the same language, and other clients want to learn more about it. So I really wanted to dedicate this so that they can listen for tips, hear some different perspectives. And I just wanted to interview people on their journey and what they've learned about manifestation. And if there are hacks, if there are ways to manifest with ease, then why not? So of course I thought of you and your profession and your expertise. So Alina, the number one question I ask every guest on my show is, how do you define manifestation?
Hmm. I define manifestation as consciously or unconsciously bringing something into the physical existence. So into the 3D world, right? So either you are now embodying a quality that you've been manifesting within yourself, or you have something physical that you've manifested, like, I don't know, a partner or a certain amount of money or business or a car or a house, whatever it is, a trip.
So bringing the once a thought into reality.
Yeah, conscious or unconscious thought.
Mm-hmm. So if it comes from a thought, how like how does that relate? Like how do we manifest that? Because we can have the purest intentions in the world of like, oh, I have the thought that I want a car, and it just seems like such a leap of it seems like so many different steps for it to eventually manifest, especially since we don't know the how and the when. So what advice would you give or thoughts to consider of how we can manifest our dream lifestyle, because we have so many goals and things we want?
Yeah, that's a great point. It is a leap sometimes. And, you know, usually it's not all the time that you have to take some kind of action. I don't really agree in polarizing statements, but a lot of the time you will have to take some kind of action in order to physically manifest something into reality. Whether it's following your gut as to like call that person and have a chat with them, whether it's, hey, go out there and do this very specific thing so that you can, I don't know, have this kind of result, right? Which will then kind of domino into what you want here. It could be something as simple as, hey, if you have, I don't know, 10 grand in your bank account, then go to the car dealership and have a conversation with them. Maybe they'll actually strike you a deal and get you a car, right? So sometimes it's more obvious than other times. And so because you have these actions, they are usually influenced by your thoughts. And you may have talked about this on your podcast before, but there's this model that is used in coaching a lot. It's basically saying thoughts affect our feelings, and our feelings affect our attitude, and our attitude affects our behavior. So, and there's this whole fight between whether the feeling or the thought comes first. We don't really know, but whatever. So you could take one of those two, either a thought or a feeling. It's going to affect your behavior, right? If you have a goal, let's say, of I don't know, losing weight, right? And there are some things that you can do to help you with that, right? Like exercising or maybe eating better. How your attitude towards those actions is going to determine whether you're going to actually stick to those habits or not, right? And attitudes are impacted by thoughts and feelings. So you could have the thought, I want to lose weight, right? But that's not enough necessarily to manifest, because then my question to you is, what are your other thoughts about what it's going to take, right? So maybe you have this thought that it doesn't really matter what I do, I'm not going to lose it, or I'll lose it and I'll gain it back, or I'm I'm not capable of this, or I can't stick to things, right? So if you have these kinds of thoughts, they're going to affect your attitude and prevent you from manifesting what you want.
That makes sense, because it sounds like the narrative that we speak, our self-talk, is a big factor with manifestations too. Not only the actions, but there's more to just the desire. It sounds like
Yes.
there's a lot of background noise within our own heads that we are cultivating. Doesn't help that outside resources like social media or social pressures are even saying this is what you want. That's trippy to me too, is like this idea of like, oh, even the weight loss, for example, I want to lose weight. Do you really? Or are you just influenced by other people? It's not wrong. Like, your desires aren't, it's not right and wrong, but it does make you curious of like, why are we manifesting the things we want? Which I haven't talked about yet on this show, of like, do I want this type of dream life because that's what everyone else is having? And so then it's possible I'm not going to manifest it any faster if I'm having these other attachment stories going on with it, with like what you were saying.
That's a really good point. You know, one of my spiritual teachers, um, and some other teachers, they kind of have this saying that we do things because we want to fulfill a need,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, um, and it's interesting, the method that I specialize in, core transformation, we work with different parts of ourselves. So, like the part of me that wants to lose weight, for example, right? And we can ask that part of me or that part of you, whatever, what it wants. And we can actually get an answer about what its need is, or like its desire is. And because we're working directly with the subconscious mind, you get a lot more truthful answers than the ones you could get whenever you're working just with your conscious logical mind.
Yeah, which is a great segue. Tell me more about conscious transformation, maybe specifically like, what is the process? What is the purpose behind it? And how can that help us manifest what could be helpful about
Yeah. Well, so core transformation, it's a gentle process and it helps us work with different aspects of ourselves. So these parts of us that have different feelings and thoughts and habits and things like that that we want to change. And so we basically find something that we want to change. Like, let's say, let's continue with the weight example. Why not? Okay, so I want to lose weight, right? And let's say I've been having trouble with it, right? So if a client came to me like this, I would say, well, what's preventing you from losing weight, right? And they might say something like, oh, I know that I need to be eating better, right? Like that's one of my worst habits, is like I'll just grab junk food. Okay. So then I would say, great. So it sounds like there's a part of you that really wants to lose weight and wants to stick to healthier eating. And there's also another part of you that wants to eat junk food. Yes. Okay. Wonderful. So now we have these different parts. And what we do is we take them through a very specific process So we start working with one of them, right? And let's just say the part that wants to eat junk food, right? So I'll say, great. So think about the last time that you experienced wanting to eat junk food. Got it? Okay, wonderful. So where is that unconscious part of you that's generating this behavior? And it can be somewhere in your body, somewhere around you. And let's just say they're like, oh, it's in my head. Okay, wonderful. In your head. So then we say, hey, part, thank you for being here. Because there's this principle in core transformation that all of these things that we want and have compulsion to do, it actually has a positive purpose. Like it exists for something positive, a positive reason, even though the behavior itself may not be very positive. Like, eating junk food is not very healthy for our bodies, but there's a positive reason that you can discover through this process of why it's happening. So we say, thank you for being here. And then we say, what do you want? Heart. And that's when you can, through listening inside, sometimes it's like an image that comes up, sometimes it's like a voice, sometimes it's a feeling. I personally have like a knowing that happens, that I just know the answer. It's the first thing usually that comes up. That's how you know you're speaking to your subconscious and you're not like logically trying to come up with the answer. So we listen for what the part wants. And then we say, thank you for telling us. And then this is what's cool. So this is why I think this goes with manifestation so well, is because in our subconscious, it doesn't know the difference between real and imaginary. So in essence, this part just told us what it wants. Let's say it wants comfort. I don't know, right? We're like, great, thank you for letting us know you want comfort. So then what we do is we invite the part to step into what it would be like to already have comfort. And so what we're basically doing is saying like, hey, have this reality, quote unquote, reality of comfort. And notice what it's like to have this. So then I can ask you, what do you want through this comfort that's even deeper or more important? And that's how we start to get to the root of what all of these different aspects of ourselves are trying to achieve. I don't know if you have any questions so far.
What I really like about this process, and I've done sessions with you before, so I can say firsthand, go book with Alina. She's great. She also, you don't need context either, which makes this very separate from therapy. Subconscious work, is you don't need to tell Alina your 20 years history why you never lose weight. That's not important. So you can just share what you're experiencing. So I want to like put that caveat that that's really unique, I think. But what I'm hearing you say in this process that is just very special is you are asking after, okay, what is the thing you desire? For example, comfort is really like why I'm doing this. You are giving that part permission to live it. How often are we giving ourselves permission to really feel what we want to feel? And there's a lot of manifestation exercises, for example, that is like this, where you act as if you pretend you have the perfect partner. You're in make believe. You're kind of delulu, whether that's for 5 minutes, a day, whatever. But that's really relevant to this manifestation process. Is you're giving your own part permission to really live it. And I just don't think we do that enough, but that's also because we live in a very fast-paced world where we're not like honoring our feels to stop and pause. We're kind of just like, oh, I feel sad. Let me just numb this, or let me just quick fix it. But what's great about CT, core transformation, that's separate from therapy, is the therapy is more, okay, we can still get down to the root, get down to the root, get down to the root, but we're not living it. We're not like giving it permission, like I'm saying. So, like, I think that's really cool is like, sure, you can know the why, but so what? You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah, there's absolutely a reason why we are uncovering the why here. And so thank you for that. I agree. And also, I think there's a lot of manifestation methods out there that tell you that you can't feel anything that's low vibe, right? So, like, if you have any kind of doubts or you have any kind of um sadness or whatever, you need to just basically shut that down because that's not high vibe and you're not going to manifest what you want if you're low vibe.
Yeah.
So I feel like I take that and I completely flip it on its head to be like, no, let's actually find what's quote unquote low vibe and meet it and work with it so that it doesn't have to, I mean, it's trying to do something helpful for you. I don't know what that is. It might be trying to protect you in some way. Maybe it thinks that it's not safe to somehow have what you want, and which doesn't logically make any sense, right? You could be in a toxic relationship right now where you are fully aware that the person is abusive and is not good for you, and you want to leave the partnership, and you're not able to because there's something inside of you that's just not allowing yourself to do that. And as crazy as it sounds, maybe to or looks to a bystander who doesn't know anything about that, like it can really create some crazy psychological stuff within us to where it's like it's not safe to have a healthy relationship. It's not safe to lose weight, as crazy as that sounds, right? So I think instead of shutting down resistance, we can meet it and effectively work with it. And that would actually help us have a lot more ease in manifesting instead of continuing to struggle through, like, oh, I have all these negative thoughts and I'm just going to stuff them down. Because
Yeah.
eventually they're going to pop up somewhere. If you're trying to stuff them down, okay, now you have a skin rash. Like, where did that come from? No idea.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah. So it's just going back to that comment of like the idea of we can't even feel low vibe because we're not going to attract anything. I mean, there's definitely, you know, um, we need to honor like mental health and, you know, certain disorders and things like that. And there's that. But there's also just like when you're in a funk and it's situational. And there is an episode with Megan Myers that we talk about holding all of those. How can you hold guilt, shame, grief, and still manifest? So I'll link that in the show notes for you guys to go dive deeper. But going back to core transformation, and I wanted you to continue the process too. So like
Mm.
when we go back to that example of, okay, so we have comfort, eventually, like what are we trying to get to? Like how will we know we're done with the session? And
Yeah,
tell me a
yeah.
little bit more about that.
So all of these parts, they want something positive, right? So comfort already kind of sounds positive. But sometimes this part might say something like, I don't know, I just want to be lazy and not do anything or something. That doesn't sound very positive. But eventually, once you invite the part to actually have what it wants in imagination and then ask it what it wants that is even deeper, eventually the answers do become a lot more positive. And what all parts want at their core, according to core transformation, is something called the core state. And it's a state of being that you can have regardless of any circumstances in your life. It doesn't rely on any people being a certain way or even you being a certain way. It's just a state of being that exists. And people have different names for these to describe these states. Some of mine that come up a lot are like today, I had one that was being, I had one that was flow, um, wholeness or peace or love that just is. And it's not a it's not a mental concept. It's something that's actually generally felt in the body when you experience it. And it's just a very nice feeling. It's a very neutral feeling. Sometimes it's a very expansive feeling. And I know that this raises our vibration, our energetic state. So if you were in a state of a lower vibrational frequency, let's say you came into my session with sadness or grief or I don't know, guilt or something like that, or anxiety, then those are lower vibrational states. And naturally, by going through this process without forcing anything, you can raise your vibration into these states of being just by meeting those things that were low vibrational and basically saying like, what do you want? You know, what, and have it so that I can learn what your deepest positive purpose is, which is actually having this resourceful core state. And then what we do is we just go through more of the process where we integrate this core state so that it can basically become a resource for you to use anytime in the future. And it gives you a different way to look at the world. You know, I believe that reality is perception. You know, people say they have the saying of like, you create your own reality. To me, that means that your perception, how you look at the world, is your reality. And the way you can change your perception a really effective way is through subconscious change work. Because basically when you reach this core state in session, it's like you've now been elevated to a different level where you can now look from that level at whatever issue you were having and go, when I'm at this level, what is my perception of this issue? And usually the perception is quite different. It's a much expanded awareness, a much more resourceful awareness of like, oh, I don't actually need to go through the trouble of eating the junk food so I can feel comfort, so I can feel loved, so I can feel whatever, protected. It just completely transforms.
Mm-hmm.
So not only does your behavior transform, so usually, I mean, sometimes it happens within one session, sometimes it's multiple sessions, but like you will transform your behavior that was holding you back from your goal. And you will also naturally raise your vibration. There's like so many multiple benefits to doing this work when it comes to manifestation that I don't know. I just love it.
Yes, you just told us. It's amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Tell us more about like if we're in struggle and if we are suffering in a certain just stage of life, or we can't see the forest through the trees, or whatever that expression is. um what could we, while doing this work, even knowing our core state, what if there still is some struggle? How do we, it's easy to say let go, but sounds easier said than done. So like, what insights do you have about like the letting go process, and why is that important?
Yeah, I'd no longer follow that advice, period. uh, really anything that begins with the letters just or the word just. Although it's kind of funny because in the core transformation method, when when we reach a core state, there's a little saying that I like to say, which is, somehow like the center part got the idea that in order to have this core state, you have to do something first. But really, the best way to experience a core state is just to step into it and have it. Which, if I told you that while you were completely, conscious, you would be like, how do I just step into it? But really, we've just gone through the process and now you can just step into it. It's easy. Um, but yeah, I don't really follow the advice of just let go or just stop thinking about it. I meet the resistance. And I would say that if someone has maybe tried this and they're still experiencing challenges, then to keep going because the biggest benefits of this work are usually seen long term, because that's the thing with these core states is like um people who have maybe experience with like neurolinguistic programming, NLP, or like other kinds of, I don't know, self-development tools. They're like, yeah, but how do I make sure that the core state stays there? Like, how do I go back? Do I need to like create an anchor or something? Do I need to like remind myself of how to do it? And the answer is sure, you could do that. And also, you could also just work with more parts, because the more parts you work with, the more natural it will just be for you. You're not going to be, it's not about being this like floaty cloud that's just like, oh my God, love and peace all the time. It's not about that. It's about being a much more resourceful, even kill, non-reactive observer person. Like something happens in your life, you don't go into complete panic and melt down and downward spiral. You are like, oh, that's happening. I feel a certain way about it. I am resourceful and I can handle it. There's a
Mm-hmm.
big difference there. So I would say if someone is like, I did a session and I'm still struggling, I'm like, I would encourage you to keep going. Like, what else? What do you mean you're struggling? What gives you the sense that you're struggling? Do you have a certain thought that you keep having, or do you have a feeling of unease? Are you finding yourself self-sabotaging with habits that are not serving you? What's going on?
I'm just speaking to personally and clients of mine that are so frustrated with the process. They're frustrated with themselves that it hasn't happened yet. And they feel like they've done all the things. They've done the Reiki, the the
Mm-hmm.
journaling, all of the tips, all of the things, and it's still not happening. But clearly there is resistance and there is lack there. So they are not detaching from the outcome.
Right.
They want
Right.
it so bad.
Well, and so that's the thing. If they were my client, I would be like, okay, so you're trying to manifest, I don't know, throw something out there.
Let's manifest a dream partner.
Okay, a dream partner. And you're telling me that you're frustrated that it hasn't happened yet because you really want it, right? And it sounds like there's a part of you that really wants that partner. It's it's like this yearning or something, right? So you could probably connect with that yearning inside of you. And there's a part of you that has the yearning. And you're also telling me, well, you're also here for a session. So it sounds to me like you're not enjoying the process of manifesting this partner, right? You don't like that you're just so crazy about this idea of having a partner and you can't like rest until you have them.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely resonate with that, um, not about the partner thing, but just with other
No,
topics like
you're
money or
bringing,
business
yeah,
or,
you're bringing up some things for me of when someone is so frustrated with the manifestation. I don't know exactly what you said, but I just kind of thought about you're not, yeah, you said you're not enjoying the process to manifest it. And manifestation, I hate the word should, but why can't it be fun? When we want to manifest something, like make it a game, make it playful. There's magic in manifestation. But if we're making it so like such, if we're tainting to get to the desire, that's not any fun.
yeah.
So, yeah, just you even just saying I'm not enjoying the wait. I'm not enjoying the techniques to get it. Um, and it's kind of like going back to the weight loss thing. If that's one of your goals, listeners, what could you do or not do? Surrender. What can you think about to make the weight loss journey fun? Why does the journey have to be so strenuous and painful? It can be still challenging, but if we're in the journey and we're so bitter because we want it so bad, that to me feels like we need to go back to our why we even want it in the first place. So anyway, you just
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
triggered for me the actual process. It's not just like A to B, like that whole in between of like, how do we even enjoy getting there?
Yeah. I think there's a lot involved here. You know, for me personally, I have my own story of growing this business. So going from being an accountant to like completely changing careers, and my entire life has been a certain way. Like I've set very clear goals and have met them, because life out there, when you follow the rules of how current, you know, economics and business is set up today, you can pretty much succeed pretty well as long as you're a good student and you know, are a people pleaser sometimes and all these things. Like it's easier. But when you are building your own business, all of a sudden there's a whole new, well, you're writing your own rule book basically, and you're becoming a whole new person. So for a long time, while I was getting things up and running and I was still trying to figure out like, who am I as a coach? Like, what am I doing? There was this constant, it wasn't like it wasn't something that, you know, sent me down like a downward spiral, but like it was a constant low grade anxiety of, I'm not where I am yet. Like I'm not where I need to be yet. And it's this constant, like, it was like these constant parts of me that were like, hey, you need to be like, you need to be earning a constant paycheck. You need to be getting back to your old salary. You need to be, society needs to be proud of you. Have your business be this successful big thing so that like your parents can finally accept you, blah blah blah, right? Like, and I didn't even know all these things until I started doing the inner work. All I knew was I feel like shit at the end of each day. Like, I don't know why, but I feel like I haven't done anything. Like I
We're good enough.
should have been doing more. And I have this shitty feeling in my stomach and I don't know why it's there. So no, it's not fun to do something that I know is going to take a considerable amount of time. Like, I'm not saying that it's going to take me years and years until I'm successful at the way that I want to be. I mean, there's already a lot of success happening in my business. Um, and at the same time, how can I be present in my daily life with what I have today? I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. Like, I think we all need to remember that too. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. So, how can I enjoy as much as I can of life today with what I do have, with what I already have manifested, and trust that it's on its way? My order is on its way. Like, I'm actively working towards it. And I don't
Yeah.
need to feel this anxiety. But this is not a logical process of letting go of the anxiety. I did the subconscious change work, particularly the core transformation, to help me not feel this constant anxiety. This was not like, I just chose to stop doing it.
Hmm.
Sometimes it happens that way too, but it's very rare for me that I just choose and it goes away. Um,
Or what you talked about, I remember when you first recorded with me in season 4 um, about healing, the healing journey, and that sometimes I remember you saying, like, just because you maybe quote healed something now doesn't mean it's not going to come up in the future. Like, it's going, like, it can be a process. And especially like you think you're done, you're not done. You're never not done. But but that doesn't have to also be this like, shit. It could be, here's another opportunity. And what's great about CT is you can do it at any time. You could do it by yourself. You could do it with Alina. Um, there's a lot of options here. And for me, you know, just personally, after having so many sessions with you sporadically, because how long has this been now? Like 2 years?
yeah,
Your training has been
almost
going
two
on for a
years, a
while.
year and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and doing that with you, my core states, usually they're themed. Usually, no matter what topic I talk to her about, it goes back to just peace and connecting to my higher power. Because for me, whenever I am connected and reminded that I'm loved from my higher power and we have this relationship, literally everything else does not matter. I can go from super manic panic to then remembering that quick. I just redirect that for me and then it
Yeah.
changes. So and remembering that like I went through that. But there's also, like you said, there's more parts. Parts keep popping up all over the place. And you're like, okay, you calm down over there. Okay, I know, I hear you over there. Like it reminds me of the movie Inside Out with all of the characters kind of in a way of they all
Yeah.
have their own little expressions and what they want to feel. So it's a practice for sure.
Mhm.
Um, so I would love to hear actually from you a personal manifestation story. Like, is there something you want to share that yeah, just like a fun, I really like to ask the audience that question because I get so many different stories and it's just so cool how the things just come into fruition. So, what's something you want to share?
Yeah. There's a lot of like physical things, like I have a couple of job stories and like how I met my partner and how we moved here to Pacific Northwest. Like those are fun. And a lot of those, except the Pacific Northwest one, but a lot of those I actually manifested before I started doing any of this inner work. So I was thinking about like, what can I share that's most recent about that I feel this work has really helped me with. And that is actually having a really elevated sense of self-confidence and stopping these patterns that I used to have of self-doubt. Like, I think this whole transition from, as I mentioned earlier, being an accountant and having this whole like career to having my own business, it created a lot of self-doubt because I was a beginner again, right? It's like going through master's degree, getting this like CPA license, working for a decade, like getting basically to the top of your career. And then at that point, you go, bye. You're going to start over now with something totally new. And all these people in the online space are saying, you need to be an authority, you need to like own your stuff and, have people think you're just the best thing since sliced bread, whatever. And I don't know what it is for some people. Maybe some people just do better at like fake it till you make it type of thing. It didn't really work for me. I really needed to feel really confident in my craft. And part of that takes time, right? It's like, okay, so you go and get training, then you got to, do a bunch of practice, right? So that you feel more confident. But it got to a point where like, even though I had all those things, I still didn't feel confident. Like there was still this, I don't know, inner voice that was just always critical and is like, you're never going to be good enough. Like, they're not going to like you. And so before every single client session and before every single like discovery call that I would have with a prospective client, I would get this like anxiety and it would just be like, oh, I hope they like me, or I hope they don't think badly of me, or I hope I don't screw this up. I hope they get results. And it was just this constant, like, I don't know, low grade anxiety again, right? And so it's been really my biggest, I would say, pattern that I've been working on. And I've been working on it for, gosh, ever since I started doing hypnosis, which was 2021. But like I've really been working with it, doing this parts work for like the last, I don't know, 6 months to a year on and off, right? And I finally got to see the results of this working. Like I had a discovery call with somebody and I think they were just in a position where maybe they had been burned by other coaches before and they were kind of like asking me some questions that it seemed like they were doubting me, right? And it wasn't anything personal. They were just like, oh, well, I noticed you haven't been doing this for very long, or like, I want someone who's really experienced and someone who can really help me. And like, I think in the past, those questions or those statements would have sent me down like, oh my God, they're already thinking I'm bad. But instead, I was totally calm and I approached this person with compassion. And I was like, yeah, thank you for telling me. I've also been burned before in coaching situations. That totally happens in this industry. And I can tell you, even though I haven't been doing this for decades, I am confident that my skill level is high quality. Like I am continuously, well, not only do I consider myself to be at the top of my class, I'm also a mentor for other trainees. I've done hundreds of sessions on myself. I've done hundreds of sessions with my clients. Like, I'm confident in my skill level. And after I got off the phone, I was like, oh my God, that's me. I did that. It was just really, it was a big accomplishment.
That's so beautiful. I love that you shared that you can manifest a feeling, a state of being. It doesn't have to be the car, the partner, whatever. Like you can, it sounds like a big shift in your identity
Yeah.
after doing all this work, which is beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations on that. And like
Thank you.
that must have felt really cool. It's cool in the moment if you can catch it of that shift of like, whoa, did that just come out of my mouth? Yeah, it did.
It is really cool, especially after you've been journaling a bunch about what you want to manifest. And like, a lot of the parts that I worked with, they actually wanted, because a big part of that doubt was also like, oh, there's nothing special about me, you know, there's I'm just a generic person with no gifts. It's like, just, I know it's not true, but that's how I felt. And a lot of these parts that I worked with, they actually wanted at their core to be like a unique expression of self, or a unique expression of source. And they also wanted belonging, but like not belonging of like a group of people, but like a belonging to everything that is, and
Mm,
having this deep like being state of being that you have, you're here for a reason.
right,
Like you have an important
right.
spot here, just like everybody else. But
Mm,
like, yeah, you belong.
you belong, period. Just on this planet, like you're here for a reason. I don't remember the statistic, but it's like literally trillion to one. Like there's no one ever going to be like you ever. You can't replicate Alina. You can't replicate Paige. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that story. And yeah, any other maybe some takeaways for the audience members, something to consider with CT or manifesting? What do you have for them?
Yeah. I would say that if you have been wanting to manifest something or trying to manifest something and it's not happening, and you're having some kind of, you're not super stoked about that, right? Like, let's say you have one of these like yearnings, you're like, oh, I can't wait for it to happen. Like, it's got to happen. Um, I would kind of write down, maybe do a little bit of journaling on like, do I have any of these yearnings, right? Like, what's my reaction to not already having what I want now? And maybe it's neutral for you. I've definitely spoken to some people and they're like, "Oh, I'm actually excited to see what happens." I'm like, "Oh, okay, sweet." Like, sounds like you're just basically, you've placed your order and now you're waiting at the table, waiting, like enjoying the scenery, enjoying the company that you're with. Like, you're not worrying about whether the kitchen has lost your ticket or something. Um, yeah. So write down what might be holding you back, what kinds of thoughts, feelings, or behaviors might be holding you back from having an enjoyable experience of life while you are manifesting the things you want.
Hmm.
Or what what assumptions or what beliefs, thoughts might I have about the thing that I'm trying to manifest? Maybe like you're trying to manifest a partner, but you have a thought that like, well, no one's going to love me anyway, or like, I don't know, I'm not going to
Mhm.
meet someone that's attractive and funny.
Yeah,
Something like that, right?
yeah, absolutely. And I like I like that journaling aspect and just being real with your narratives. And then that point of how can we just get to that confidence of I placed my order, now I'm going to be present. I like that analogy you used of like, because I literally like visualize like, okay, I told the waiter and now I get to enjoy the company with friends. It's a big table and we're all just chatting and you never know when they're going to actually bring the plate to you. It could be an hour. it could be 15 minutes, but when you're present, you even sometimes you forget, like, oh, I forgot I even ordered that. Like, I forgot I forgot we got appetizers. Sweet. Like, I love that visual. I also heard another one in regards to manifesting your order was a drive-through. Like, you're sitting in a drive-through, you tell the order on the prompt or whatever, the thing, and there you see all the cars in front of you. So, but you have no idea. Maybe they just got a quick drink. Maybe they ordered the whole left side of the menu and it's going to take a while. But you're sitting in your car, like, what are you going to do? You can't like run through and like hit their bumper. Like, you can't do anything about it. So I also kind of like that too. Metaphors like those help me to give me just like a reality check and like humble myself to wait and to be present. So in the meantime, I'm going to sit in my car, I'm going to listen, I'm going to talk to a friend, I'm just going to enjoy my life. So more of the story, folks, is not only with CT work we can get to the root of that core state that really wants to be seen and heard, and you get to live it out as well in that session, which is really special. But after that too, there is some weight lifted off of you because you don't have to like wonder anymore, like, oh, what is this thing? You can just embody it now. And I know for me, my journey has been about worthiness and self-love, and to just accept like that I am worthy, and it doesn't need to be a negotiation. It doesn't need to be, whatever it is for you. I am worthy, I am loved, like whatever you're working on. Like, when you get, trust me, when you get to a point where you're like, oh, I don't even need to like worry or negotiate this, it just feels so much better. It just feels like, oh, okay, sweet. Let me move on to the next task, honestly.
Yeah. Speaking of metaphors, just really quickly,
Yeah.
it's like when your mind or your space, your energetic space is cluttered with all of these thoughts that are not serving you or feelings that are not serving you, it's really hard to create space for something new to come in, right? So core transformation helps you clear these things in a way that's not forceful. It helps you reach a core state, which naturally raises your vibration. And like you were saying, it helps these different aspects of you, all these different parts of you, to live out what they actually want um, in your subconscious, which is just, it's just as real as reality in your
Hmm.
imagination.
Yeah, they
So
get to play. They've been trapped up in there,
mhm,
and you're only seeing the symptom. You're only seeing the like negative, uncomfortable shittiness, but we're not like getting to, oh, wait, it actually has a purpose. We don't think that. Just like when you're talking about like, oh, I'm eating junk food, I actually want comfort. We're not thinking about comfort. We're just thinking about, give me the cookies right now.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Cool. Well, I wanted to wrap up here and just say I'm really grateful for you. I'm grateful for you explaining this. What is a good way for someone to connect with you, and contact you if they want more information, or to work with you?
Yeah, you can find more on my website at alinanikishina.com. And I'm also on Instagram at HeyAlinaN and also LinkedIn.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. All of that is going to be in the show notes. Um, Thanks, Alina. Did you have fun today?
I had a blast.
Yay.
Thank you for having me on again.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much. Well, thank you for all the listeners out there. If this episode truly resonated with you, make sure to share it on your socials and tag Alina and I so we can say hello. Remember, every single day provides a lesson. Go out there, dream big, and I'll catch you next week. Take care.
Thanks.